Welcome to another episode of Leadership Live. I am so excited to be hosting Joel Green today. Hi, Joel. Welcome.
Definitely. Thanks for having me on. Thank you.
Pleasure. So Joel Green is the CEO of Pro Level Training, which he founded after retiring from his career in professional basketball. He's also the national director of Nike Sports Camps, delivering camps and training for young athletes. Also, author of his new book, Filtering: The Way to Extract Strength from the Struggle. And really excited to hear some of your stories around that, Joel. And I know you're also a motivational speaker. You've spoken to thousands of people in audiences and delivered your own TED Talk. Now, a fun fact about Joel that I was really excited to read about was that most recently you were the face of Cheez-It Crackers Celebrity Crunch Classic campaign, in which your face solely featured on millions of snack boxes.
Right.
It's pretty tell us what that feels like. But I want to start with a quote that I really love. And this quote says, and it's attributed to quite a few different people, and it says that it takes many years to become an overnight success. And I think that this really describes how what we see about people is the end results, the outcomes, the successes. And we don't see the years of struggle, hard work, and pain that it really takes to get there. And I think that this quote describes quite appropriately what your story and what you've been through. So maybe kick us off with that. Tell us a story about your experience with that.
Well, that's a deep quote. I love that. But it's so true because it's the people only witness what happens in the light. They don't see all the dark times, and not just the, dark meaning negative, but things that are done in the dark, things that are intentionally done behind the scenes that literally makes you what they see in the light. So that's I feel like that is me in a nutshell in so many regards. And from early on in life, me growing up in an abandoned home in North Philadelphia, people see me now, maybe see different things that I do. They see my positivity, my positive nature, my, optimism and things like that, but not realizing I'm that way because of the way I came up. I'm positive now because I went through a lot of negativity early on. And I don't want to.
I think some people keep that negativity, right? They will go into victim mode or poor me,
right.
But you've managed to really transcend that. So maybe
fortunately, because I do know, just like you said, it could have gone the other way. And from my end, my family helped me a whole lot. I'll be honest with you, to say they kept me encouraged. They let me know things will get better. They put me in a proper state of mind. And,
amazing.
With that approach, I just continue to believe it. I believed it and bought into it.
So much to be said for that, for family support, community support. Sometimes other people have to believe in you more than you believe in yourself. So maybe, Joel, can you share one of your toughest moments, one of your hardest times?
Man, one of my hardest times was when my older brother, Kevin, passed away when I was 17 years old. And, that it shut me down. I'll be honest with you, as it would probably any other teenager or person. And I was shut down for some weeks and just didn't really even know how to live anymore.
Yeah.
He's one of I have two brothers and one older sister. I'm the youngest of four.
Wow.
And, so I rely on my older siblings a lot, growing up. And he was one that started me off in basketball. So, he was a huge part of my life. So when he passed and he was only 25, tragically, I'm like, I don't know how to live anymore. I don't know what to do. And I just had to figure out ways, obviously with the support and help of my family, just how to continue to move forward despite what occurred. And I realized so much about life is just having a despite mindset and mentality. And when you carry that approach of, look, I'm going to do X, Y, Z despite what happened, and that's when you're able to still keep moving forward, as opposed to just saying, this is what happened. I'm just going to sit still. I'm going to, pout and vent forever.
Yeah.
And you don't get anywhere with that approach. So when my brother passed, I mean, it was extremely difficult. It's still tough to think about. But the best part about it is I figured out how to actually get strength from it, how to actually be motivated as a result of it, and draw some things from that situation to actually propel me forward. And I used every bit of anger, sadness I could from that situation to actually make me better.
Wow, that's one of those life moments when at such a young age you confronted with mortality, with your own mortality even, in such a harsh, shocking way, because you don't expect your brother to pass away. You don't expect a 25-year-old to pass away. And even though it happens, we push those experiences aside. And at the age of 17, you've got your whole life ahead of you, a whole future, and all of a sudden you're faced with this absolute shock that actually it's not forever. It's very fleeting. Yeah. What did it do for you in that moment? How did you take that?
You honestly, you begin questioning your own life.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. For me, I grew up in Philadelphia. There's a lot of violence around me. I mean, when I was 6 years old, I was 10 feet away from a shooting myself, and I was the only person there outside of the kid that got shot.
That's 6.
So, I had a cousin who was shot and killed when I was the same year when I was 6 years old.
Wow.
And so, I've been around violence, and certain things happen close to home as far as, a sibling passing away. You start questioning your own lifespan and lifetime. Is like, man, how much longer do I have? Mm-hmm. That definitely happened multiple times, thinking, man, okay, hopefully I make it to 25. Hopefully I make it past 25.
What was it like when you made it to 25, when you hit that point, that age?
I'm sorry?
What was it like for you to pass that age?
That was big. It really was. And it's funny. No one has ever asked me that. But it really was, I hate to say it, but it was a milestone moment for me.
Of course.
Because, again, very close to my older brother, and him being 25, and people literally say, you may not make it past 25, where I come from. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you hope to make it. And when I did, it felt good. And I was like, all right, just keep on doing what you're doing, keep on living. You know what I mean? There's no limit to this life. Get out of that mindset.
Yeah.
But, as a teenager, it was hard to not have that cross my mind.
Yeah.
And, but again, it all made me better because I began living like I never lived before, to be honest with you. And
so
not in a negative
sense. You gathered the strength, and I know your book is also about turning struggle into strength. So can you talk a little bit about what did you do, even in terms of that experience or other experiences? What do you do? How do you do that? How do you shift your mindset into, okay, this is what I have, and this is what I'm going to do with it?
It's a conversion that you have to do. Again, my book is called Filtering, and that's a method that I came up with for myself about probably 7 or 8 years ago. And I just began speaking it from the stage and applying it for myself just to, for whatever I'm going through, whether it be good or bad. It's not even just directed towards bad situations, but whatever I go through, I want to draw exactly what I need and even what I want many times from that situation that can actually help me. If it was a good situation, that will help me replicate that situation again. And if it's a bad situation, I want to draw what I need to help me avoid that situation and still in some way make me better as a result of that negative thing I went through.
That's amazing. So you're filtering the kind of the good stuff, or maybe even the gifts of the challenge from the difficult stuff, and running with that.
Exactly.
What do you do with the difficult stuff? Do you just push it away and move on? What do you do with the hard stuff?
Well, the same way with any extraction process, right? You take the good, you discard the bad. I want to get rid. I don't even want that in my mind or in my heart. So I take from what I need. I take what I need from the situations and do my absolute best to apply those things, those attributes, those principles that I've learned to help improve me. So if there's a pain that I'm going through randomly, right? I don't want to just try to ignore the pain or even try to just medicate the pain. That's not, I want to actually say, okay, why did this pain come? I question the situation. That's the process of the filtering method. You lean into it and you question without emotion, as opposed to, you don't want to say, why is this happening to me? You want to say, all right.
Why me? Why me?
Why? Right. Yeah. You don't want to be in that state of mind.
And I think that is a part of the process, right? I think that we do ask ourselves, why me? Right. I think that's natural. But do we dwell on it, or do we, as we say, like filter it,
Right. So, if I'm going to go through that, I try my best to not do the why me emotionally. I'll say, why me? Or, why am I going through this? Or why is this
Okay.
here?
Okay.
And because the emotions clouds so much of what we're going through if we ask it in that manner.
Can
So
you
I
give
try
an
to do so.
example of how you use this? Can you give a story or a situation? And I'm sure you've got many, but one where you do
Absolutely.
that.
Look,
Yeah.
I have no problem. There's a number of situations. There's times I've been cut from a basketball team. I've gone through divorce. That was a big one for me, a huge one for me. I definitely had some why me moments. And it wasn't until some time has passed, I had to stop asking, why me? Why my family? And within that emotional state, I had to really lean into it and pick it apart and figure out potentially why, as opposed to emotionally asking why and pitying myself amidst the situation, because I got nothing from it outside of a few pats on the backs and saying, it's okay. I don't need that. I need to get better as a result of what happened.
I love
So
what you're saying there. You're saying not the why me as in poor me, it's actually the why me as in what for? What is
exactly,
the purpose? Where am I going
exactly,
with this? Is that, yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
And that's the whole intent of filtering, just really breaking down whatever you're going through to find that seed of growth within it. And I tell people all the time, like, seeds don't live on the surface. You bury seeds, they're buried within the
Right.
ground in order to grow. And usually the seeds uh, of benefit are buried within our situations. So we got to dig down, we got to dig into them. We have to lean into it in a positive way, in a very curious and inquisitive way, to find out why this thing has come, why it has happened. And when you do that, you learn so much about the situation, about yourself, to where you won't continually replicate
Yeah.
that
The
situation, or
same
even,
patterns. Yeah.
the situation won't continually revolve. You'll be able to resolve the situation right then and there and not have it replicate itself in another area of your life, to learn the same principle all over again. So
So
I'm just
you
big on,
subscribe to the thinking of once you've resolved a lesson or you've learned a lesson of growth, that pattern is not going to repeat in your life
exactly,
again. And yeah, I
exactly.
believe that
That's
too,
the
for sure.
purpose.
That's what we're here for, right?
Yeah.
Well, so can you take me through, I mean, if you use the example of, say, you being cut from the basketball team and your initial response is, oh, this really, really is awful. And why does this have to happen to me? And surely I'm better than that. And why can't things work out? And then you do your filtering or extraction, and you turn it into, explain some of that process for me.
So again, I'm big on, using every emotion you can to improve yourself. So I'm huge on using anger. Anger gets a bad rap because it's used and utilized in the wrong way. It's expressed in the wrong way by default. But if you are able to control your anger, you can literally channel it and you can use it to your advantage. And that's one thing, let's say me being cut from a team, or me being just, dropped off or sent home, from another country where this happened. For me, obviously I was enraged, angered,
Yeah. What
by it,
did you do?
saddened by it.
Yeah.
I use the sadness. I use the anger. I use just how mad I am as an advantage for myself, because it's all energy. I tell people all the time, when you're sad, you cry. That's energy that you exude. When you're angry, you yell, you scream, and you curse, you do all these things. It's a lot of energy in that you exude. So I want to use that energy from those emotional states, but in the right way.
Right.
So the way I feel, that's how I filter. I'm like, okay, let's actually break the situation down and take the energy, which is the positive thing, from that negative thing. And I use that energy toward getting back on the court, making me better. So
I love what you're saying. Yeah, I love what you're saying, Joel, because this is so important. And honestly, I always say this as well. So anger has been given such a bad rap, right? It's such a bad emotion, in inverted commas. Right. But it's really not, because I link anger to passion. If you're angry at something and you're really enraged, it means there's an unfulfilled passion for you in there that you need to explore. And using what you're saying about being energy, it's such a force of energy that you can use for good. You can either go, as you say, and be violent. You've grown up in that and you've seen what that does. So you can use that anger to express it in a violent way, or you can take all of that energy and be an agent of change. Say,
Absolutely.
what do I want to change? And it can be something worldwide. Like I think a lot of the activists that have created enormous change in our world, it's fueled by anger and passion. To me, anger and passion are linked. But also on our own level, if you take what you said now is, I was cut from the team, I was angry, but I channeled that energy to decide and investigate what happened. What can I do differently? How can I take responsibility for it so that it doesn't happen again? And that's the key here. That's really awesome.
No, that's perfect way you put it. Like you said, so many people who are the catalyst for change, definitely driven by anger. That's the foundation of the change.
Exactly. We should start really understanding that anger as an emotion is not bad. It's how we express it, how we use it, and how we channel it that can be either good or bad. That's in our hands.
And it's funny because, I look at the way we generally express it as our default method. And that's one thing that I'm big on training with myself. I wrote about it in the book as far as changing our default reactions. And that's a big thing. It's just something to be aware of. But it starts with our awareness. Like if we're not aware that we're reacting this way by default, then it's going to be hard to change it. But the moment you become aware of it and you put some tools in place, again, for me, filtering is a tool. It's a method, that people can use. That has helped a lot of people. They've told me as I've spoken it from the stage, before I even wrote the book, and I will get a DM on social media. I'll get an email, things like that saying, hey, this really has helped me over the last few months. Awesome. Thank you. I'm going to keep trying it out, stuff like that. Students will contact me. And I love to hear that, just to know that this tool helps, people to persevere and to improve.
And we don't have to be subject to our default responses. So having a tool like that is really awesome. It can, as you say, just channel it to where we want it to go.
Exactly.
Amazing. So tell me, what is your biggest fear, Joel? I'm curious.
My biggest fear? It may be regressing.
Oh, okay. What do you mean by that?
So I really love growth. I don't see myself as having many fears at all, to be honest with you. Because I've always been one to embrace a fear and just step up to it. So, I don't have a whole lot of things that I run from, to be honest. But if I were to pick anything out, it may be, the inverse of growth. Okay. I really, really enjoy growing. I enjoy learning. I'm a student of life. I'm a student of so many things and so many people, to where I feel like I can learn from anybody. I can learn from a 6-year-old. I learn from my son all the time. So I'm always leaning into things to grow. So if you would say, if I have any fear, it's no longer growing. I feel like life ends at that point, to where if you have nothing to learn anymore, life gets a little boring. So if there's any fears, I would say that would be one if I were to pick anything out.
Joel, and I'm just thinking of people who might be sitting in a fear situation right now. Probably people who are listening to us, and they're sitting in fear, and they may be even sitting in a situation where they've had failure after failure after failure, and things don't seem to be going their way. And, if you're listening and that's what you're experiencing at the moment, what do you say, Joel, to people like that?
Well, so often what I've noticed is fear is rooted in ignorance a lot of times.
Okay.
And, by way of ignorance, I'm just saying a lack of understanding on a certain area. So you may not understand this or that area. So you fear stepping in that direction. And I'll be honest, I've even seen that towards people, culture to culture may not understand one another, black versus white. So they fear one another.
Yeah.
Because there's a lack of understanding of the other party.
Right.
So, so often I feel like a lot of our fears are just rooted in ignorance, to where we just take some time to learn a little bit more about what we're fearing and really lean into it. Because again, even that's a daring thing, to lean toward what you fear and learn about it, or learn about them. But if you dare yourself to do that and just really try to become a student of that situation, say, okay, what can I actually learn from this? Then all of a sudden you're connecting with it. The more connection, the more understanding, the less fear automatically occurs, because it's like, okay, I actually understand. I have empathy toward this thing now as opposed to fear, you know, and that connection is amazing. So I would say lean into what you're fearing and really understand it. And I dare say that the fear is going to just dissipate slowly but surely.
I love that. And I think it's so true, because I think that lack of understanding is connected to two things. One is possibly our context and environment and programming, so to speak, of how we've grown up and our expectations of how a situation would be or how a person would be. And that's linked to the uncertainty. If it is like that, then it's horrible. And if it isn't like that, then how is it going to be? There's a lot of uncertainty, and we also fear uncertainty. Exactly. So it really does feed off each other. So you're saying lean into it, learn more, understand it, understand yourself, and then move forward. Maybe some things will change for you.
Exactly. Completely agree. I mean, that's just, I know myself with different things that I've feared or hesitated to face. It was once I understood those things more. And again, I'm using myself as an example of even having hesitation toward other people, other cultures, you know, growing up more so, because I grew up around my own. Literally, you know, I wasn't around any other culture outside of African Americans. So, you know, it wasn't until I began getting around other cultures, other races, there was a hesitation to interact.
Yeah.
Being honest.
Yeah.
So I even understand when others may have hesitation toward me because they haven't been around my kind. It's unfortunate, but it's rooted in ignorance.
Yes.
As far as their hesitation, because we're just people.
Yeah.
But I had to realize about myself, I was ignorant.
Yeah.
You know, to where it's like, okay, you don't have to hesitate towards them. They're a person. They're people just like you. You know, so there should be no hesitation. There should be no, you know, awkwardness. You're talking to a person, you know, but I understand because I went through it. And it wasn't until I just opened myself up to just being able to speak to people and just interact with other cultures, being able to start to travel the world and interact with people and not fear them because they're foreign to me. You know what I mean? But so much is foreign to us in life, and all these foreign things lead to fears because they're foreign. And it's like, no, just, you know, understand those situations, lean into them a little bit more, embrace the differences, embrace all these things, and just, you know, no need to have fear toward them.
I love that. That's such a powerful message right there, because if we can really connect at that level of being people, of being human, we'll discover a whole lot. We'll learn a whole lot. Doesn't mean we have to get on with everybody. We probably won't.
No, right.
But we can connect, we can explore, we can learn, we can discover. And for me, that's also curiosity. Be curious about your environment, about things that are different to you, about things that are unknown, at the things that you fear, all of those things.
Exactly. I mean, it's really about being at a level to where you can at least have empathy. You know, you don't even have to sympathize all the time. No, but if you can at least have a level of understanding to where you can say, okay, I'm not going through what they're going through. I'm not even like them. They're not like me, but I understand how they may feel with what they're going through right now. That's a huge step.
Yeah.
And that just comes from understanding another party. You know what I mean? It's a whole lot that can come from just that mindset.
Beautiful. Joel, I know you are in the midst of your book launch and everything that's going on with that, and we'll give people all the information how to reach you at the end. But I'm curious, what's next? I mean, I know you're in the midst of it. Maybe it's even unfair to ask you the what's next question, because I always say celebrate your successes, take the time. But have you got any thoughts about what's next for you?
Well, again, you know, so there's not another book exactly that's next. This is looming. You know, I already have some ideas that I've written about a little bit. So it's in the future.
So you're already thinking of your next book. Fantastic.
Absolutely. But I'm in no rush, because I really want people to really dive into filtering. This is my baby. I've been writing it for over 6 years.
Wow,
so,
6 years.
You know, I really want it to have the impact that I can see it having. So I'm not going to look to rush anything out there. But you know, there's some other great things on the horizon. Just growing my company is a major one. being the CEO of a company that's, now international, I have a ton of goals for that.
Yeah.
Ton of goals, and just expansion over the next 5 years.
Maybe tell us a little bit about that. As CEO of a company that you've grown to 7 figures and continuing to grow and scale internationally, what have been some of your learnings, for other CEOs, other people who are starting companies and have this big idea and they want to get themselves on that road? What have been some of your learnings? What would be some of your advice and tips to people going that route?
Well, I mean, for myself, what's really helped, and as I speak to other business owners often, I just tell them to leverage their network as much as they possibly can. I mean, your phone is such a tool that is really not taking fully advantage of. Like, I mean, our phone, we probably use 20% of our phone's features.
So give us a practical thing. What would you do? You leverage your network. I think it's a great piece of advice. What are some practical things you can do with your phone or however to leverage your network?
Well, as far as leveraging the network is, someone that can help you do what you desire to do. Someone, and I mean at least one person. Somebody that can help take you a half a step further toward where you desire to go. So I would say, literally go through your phone book. This is what I did.
Okay.
Early on, I went through my phone book. I literally scrolled through all my contacts and said, "Oh, all right." And I made a note of everybody, of each person that I felt like can help me take a step in the direction where I wanted to go to. And I had probably definitely 20 plus people that I ended up making a note about. And I sent the same text message to every single one of those contacts with their name in it, though. I personalized it a little bit.
Tell us, what did the text message say?
It was pretty much, "Hey, I have this going on. I would love you to be a part of it. What do you think? Give me, let me know if you want to set up a call."
Oh,
and these are people that I've known personally over the years, former teammates of mine, coaches of mine, and some people that I may have only come in contact once. But I felt like, hey, we have each other's contact information. I'm not contacting a stranger. We met one another, and
how many meetings did you get from that 20 plus outreach message, would you say? Rapid?
Oh, that helped. That helped me to get where I am today.
Wow.
I kept doing it.
It's incredible because, it's such a small thing and we're often really reluctant to take that step because we feel like we don't want to impose, or we feel like, oh, what if they think I'm, stupid, or whatever it is. We have all our things coming up. But what I've learned from my experience is that people do want to help. And if you reach out in a way of, I need your advice, or I'd like to get your opinion, or would you be interested to hear more? People want to help, and you're giving them an opportunity to do that.
Exactly. And people that knows me personally know I don't do that often. And I think that actually helps me. That's to my benefit because they know I'm not going to keep coming back to them for this and for that and for that. Right. So when I reached out to people, they said, all right, let's talk about it. They know me. They know, the character that I have, the integrity that I have. And so when I decided to say, okay, and one thing too, I will mention this to people, and you kind of alluded to it a little bit. Mm-hmm. I do not care what people think.
That's a wonderful quality.
You can't. When it comes to something that you desire, like you really desire, you cannot worry about what people think about you. They'll only think it for a moment. So let that moment pass. Let them think it for a moment. If it happens to be a negative thought, they're not going to keep thinking about it. Let that moment pass. If they want to think anything ill about you, that's not you. Yeah. Let them be mistaken. But you at least shoot your shot and go after what you are desiring and what you feel like can help propel you. Shoot your shot. Yeah. And it's amazing how many makes you'll get versus the misses. Yeah. And that's all I did. I said, okay, I feel like this person, and it was strategic. I didn't contact everybody. I had hundreds of contacts, but I only contacted about 20 because it was strategic. I'm like, okay, this person, they can help me in this regard, but not in that regard. So I wouldn't contact them. I made my list, and I just began doing that. And anyone I would come in contact with, I would make a note, even in their name. So when I would save their name, I would put a little note, say, all right, that would kind of remind me for the future, reach back out to them. And I just kept doing it over the years. I still do that currently. And I just leverage the people in my contact list to help me grow my business. Mm-hmm. And I just maintain a great relationship with them. And that's the big thing too, that people overlook in business is nothing but relationships.
Yeah.
that's what leads to partnerships.
It's nothing
And
but relationships. I so agree with you. And across the board, it
that's
could be
all it is.
advisors, your suppliers, your clients, your team members, your staff, everything.
Exactly.
It's all relationships.
Exactly. If you have a solid relationship, there's greater trust. And it's nothing like working with somebody that you have trust for. And that's just one thing I'm huge on. Just the integrity side of things, having trust toward and from the people that I work with. And it leads to amazing things.
Fantastic. So I'd love to also just touch on what are the similarities between being an athlete and being a founder of a business, CEO? What are the, I don't know, some of the parallels that you can perhaps touch on for us? Because I think that's a fascinating topic as well.
Well, for me, that's actually one of the most enjoyable parts about being in business because I'm always trying to draw from my athletic background. I had a lot of success. Fortunately, thank God I had a lot of success in the game of basketball and in sports period throughout my life. So for me, I call myself simple-minded, right? Not in a negative sense, but I'm very simple in how I operate and view things. So for me, 1 + 1 it equals 2. I had success over here doing these things. Why can't I have success over here doing the very same things? As far as the mentality, the approach, the principles, things like that. So I don't do anything different as far as that leads me towards success. I had success on the court because I woke up early. I put in an hour or 2 to 3 more than everybody else. And that led me to incrementally get better over time than a lot of people that I may have been in competition with. I do the same thing now. I wake up early, and over time, incrementally, I see my product, my company. Not that I'm not concerned with competition now. That's the only thing. I'm not concerned with competition now, but I can just still see, engage, and measure that, okay, my company is growing, my brand is growing over time because of the early hours that I put in. And it equates to, okay, if you were to compare with another business owner, you may see, oh, I put in 2 extra hours than them this week. And so and same that week. And over at the end of the month, I have 8 extra hours versus their time. And it's the same principle that I had in sports as an athlete. And for me, I'm just all about going all out. And it always helps me out.
Putting in the hours, putting in the work. And, I often think that people who are learning or people who are reading books, when you read a book and you start it and you finish it, and don't just read one chapter, because 90% of the people who read books read the first chapter and then put it aside. So the minute I'm into chapter 2, I'm thinking, I'm at the top 10% of people who are now going ahead and soldiering on. So, and then that's where you gain your advantage. You do.
That's exactly. And speaking of books, I mean, that's a huge advantage for me. As an athlete, I was a learner. I'm a learner athletically. I will ask questions. I will annoy you by asking you questions. How do I do this? How can I do that move? So how did Michael Jordan do that move? Like things like, and I will try to find out the proper footwork and all these things. I will put in my time in the gym just to try to walk through and do choreography, no basketball. I would just walk through with my socks on the court, walk through for 20, 30 minutes with the move just so I can get it down and have it down automatically without thought. And I'm the same way now. Now it may come by way of books, and I love reading. So I look at literally every author as a mentor of mine, whether I've met them or not. Yeah. I'm like, they are telling me 30 plus years of experience, more than likely, and I'm able to gain that in a matter of a week or 2 or however long it takes me to read the book.
Right.
So me now being a learner in this regard, I'm like, I can apply all this knowledge that I gained from this author. I have thousands of years of knowledge just from reading 30 books.
Exactly.
And it's like, that's how I apply things now, to where I feel like I have an advantage over other people that doesn't look at it that way. And I'm like, I'm reading this book with intent, to actually gain all of their knowledge from this book that they put in here. Awesome. And if this person is super successful, why wouldn't it lead to a little bit of success for me if I'm actually applying, not just reading, but I'm applying what they just said?
Exactly. And that's the next thing. So many people read but don't apply. So if you apply just one thing from a book that you've read, you're already streets ahead.
Usually an author, and I realize this now as an author, usually an author gives too much away.
Yeah.
You know, but like you said, if you apply one of those things and attack it, it will lead you somewhere good.
Yeah. Fantastic. Joel, I know you've spoken about, I love to hear about habits and hear about people's habits and especially leadership habits. And you've spoken about a couple, waking up early, reading books and implementing. What would you say is a key leadership habit that has stood you in good stead over your whole life, your whole career span?
Obviously, it's quite a bit, but and again, we mentioned it earlier, but curiosity is a huge one. That's what leads to constant growth. And if you're going to be a leader, you have to show that you are the one at the helm that's growing often, because those that are following you are looking for constant movement. They don't want movement backward. They don't want movement downward. Growth means this way and this way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're going forward or you're going up.
Love that.
And that comes by way of just constant learning, constant growth.
Adopting a habit of curiosity, which is also linked to asking questions, learning, continuing to improve, and just interrogating stuff like how, what, when, why,
perfect.
You know? Yeah.
Perfect way to put it. I mean, that's just really what it is. So for me, I tell myself often, and it's intentional to make sure I'm continually learning something. That's why I even said earlier, like if you said if I have any fears, I'm like, I don't want to stop learning. You know what I mean? Like I don't know if you want to. I don't want to know how it feels to go backward.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just something that I enjoy. Fortunately, I enjoy learning, and I'm conscious to teach my son to have that same mindset. He's only 9, so I'm like, hey, let's learn something new today. Hey, I'm going to teach you something new today. Yeah. Let's read this quote. All these things so that he can see daddy's interested in learning, and it keeps me learning on a daily basis too. But that's one thing I think a leader should always lean into. I look at the Warren Buffett's out there. He's talking about how much he reads every single day, whether it's just the papers or whatever the case is. That's learning. And we talk about these figures for a reason. They're students of life. That's a huge thing.
Yeah. And I love just bringing your son into it, because we didn't speak so much about what it's like to be a dad. But I think having children really holds you up to a certain way of being, because you can't just talk about things or read about things.
Right.
Your kids are watching you and they're seeing how you behave, and they're watching your actions and not just your talk. So that is the best learning that they could possibly be.
Right. I mean, even when you don't know, they're watching. They're watching, and listening to everything. Everything. Oh my goodness. True. So yeah, that's a huge thing for me to make sure I'm walking in a good way. You know what I mean? So just trying to make sure I'm going about things properly, saying the right things, showing the right things, so that they can honestly use it against me. Say, well, hey, you're not doing this, you know.
Exactly. They will point it out if you're not. Right. They'll be the first people. Like everybody else keeps quiet. They don't want to ruffle any feathers, but your children will be the ones who will say to you,
"Why do I have to make my bed? Your bed's not made." Exactly. It's like, oh my goodness, okay. Yeah.
Joel, thank you so much for being with me today. I've really enjoyed being with us, and I've enjoyed our conversation. Maybe you can just end off by telling us how we can find you, and we will put that into the show notes as well, so people can reach you and get in touch and read your book. So give us a bit of that.
Well, Daphne, thank you so much for having me on. I mean it. For everybody, you guys can stay in touch with me. I'm on Instagram pretty heavy. And you can reach me on there at Jay Green PLT. That's Jay Green PLT. I'm also on TikTok now. Finally, people have been trying to get me on there for years. Right, and I'm on there. Same handle, Jay Green PLT. I'm on Facebook. You can find me on there at facebook.com, Joel Green Official, and Official Joel Green, and my website, joelbgreen.com. You can contact me through there for speaking engagements. You'll contact through my agent and things like that. But I love to engage with people on a daily basis. So if you guys want to send me any DMs, any messages at all, believe me, you definitely will hear back from me. I'm big on, providing tips and wherever I can help. That's my goal in life, is to provide an impact. So I would love to stay connected with you guys.
Awesome. Thank you, Joel. Really enjoyed our conversation, and just good luck with everything that lies ahead and your
Thanks
book.
again, Daphne. Oh, and one more thing. So
Yes.
you mentioned it, but I forgot just that quick. But definitely go out and pick up Filtering. It's
Yes.
very helpful for a lot of people already. It's an amazing read, very inspiring. From what I'm already hearing, which is great. So I feel like my purpose has been done for that book, and I really wanted to impact as many people as possible. I put a lot of secrets and tips in there. Even in regards to business, not just life, but I talk about how I scaled my business, and just there's a whole lot in there that people have no clue about when it comes to me, in regards, to different things I even picked up from some very notable people. I'll say that, in the world. So hopefully it helps you guys out.
Awesome. Thanks, Joel.
Thank you, Daphne.